This short presentation is intended to give you a basic idea of what health psychology is and what to expect from the application process to graduate school in health psychology. Health psychology is the study of how mental, emotional, and social factors affect a person's well-being. Health, from a biological standpoint, is usually thought of as the absence of a disease. From a psychological standpoint, though, we have a more holistic approach. It's the overall well-being of a person, including physical health, but also including emotional, social, and psychological well-being. Health psychologists are generally less interested in an actual illness and more interested in the person who has the illness. They may study how an illness affects the emotional and mental well-being of a patient, the reasons why people go or don't go to the doctors, how people interact with physicians, or how we can get people to participate in health promotion behaviors. In general, we want to know how psychology affects health and vice versa. Clinical health psychologists work with people to promote health. This could be focusing on the person's lifestyle and behavior to change bad habits, overcome lifestyle problems, or help manage an illness. Community health psychologists focus not on individuals but on the community as a whole and typically study prevalence and incidence rates of illnesses within certain areas in order to determine what may be contributing to health disparities within those areas. Public health psychologists are also focused on incidence and prevalence rates of disease, but from a larger societal level, with a more specific focus on health policies. They may be involved with major prevention campaigns and large-scale interventions. Depending on the specific type of work, health psychologists may work in hospitals, clinics, government organizations such as the CDC and the World Health Organization, nonprofit organizations, and of course at universities for those who go into teaching and research. Social psychology programs are often paired with health psychology, as they are here at UWM, because social psychology is a study of how external factors affect individual behavior. Within a health context, these external factors could be things like peer pressure or social influence, which could influence an individual person's health behaviors. Public health, as mentioned on the previous slide, is also a related field. Public health researchers are focused on the health of the population in general, including biostatistics and the epidemiological perspective, which is the study of patterns, causes, and effects of disease on a general population. Behavioral health specialists are similar to clinical health psychologists in that they help treat an individual, but they may work in rehabilitation facilities or clinics to help patients develop treatment plans that involve behavioral change plans. These treatment plans could include specific behavioral analysis strategies to affect behavior change, including providing reinforcement schedules. Graduate programs are all looking for similar, yet slightly different things depending on the program. You can expect that you need a high undergraduate GPA and a good GRE score for applications. But what would put you above and beyond the other applicants? The specific coursework you have as an undergrad could be impactful. For health psychology, these would be, but aren't limited to, things like statistics and research methods, physiological psychology, and social psychology. Others may also include cultural psychology, psychopharmacology, and other things that have a clear relationship to the field of health psychology. Another important thing programs look for is prior research experience. This could include working in a research lab, helping with data input and coding, helping conduct studies with participants, participating in literature reviews, poster presentations, and local and regional conferences, and participation in programs like Psych-Hi and the McNair Scholars Program. Basically, if you have experience doing the same types of tasks you'd be doing in a graduate research lab, that's going to be a major plus on an application. So a few tips for graduate applications. One of the best ways to manage the application process is to start early. This may seem obvious, but there are a lot of programs that all have similar but slightly different focuses, and they all have similar but slightly different requirements. You'll want to start looking at programs early in order to determine which ones have the focus and specific area of interest you're looking for. One of the best resources is this manual published by the APA every year. It contains a list of all psychology programs, the types of degrees and programs offered, and information on the previous year's applicants, such as how many applications were received, how many of those students were accepted, what their average GRE score was, how many of those who were accepted received tuition remission or some other kind of financial aid, what their average undergraduate GPA was, etc. This is helpful to know how close you are to what each program typically accepts. Again, this manual is published each year with updated information and is often available at university libraries in the reference section. This brings us to the next tip. The match between you and the program you're applying to is one of the most important, if not the most important thing about your application. You can anticipate needing a good GRE score, a high undergraduate GPA, and recommendations from faculty members. However, these are the minimum requirements that a lot of people will meet, so the match between you and the advisor you want to study under is very important. When you find programs you are interested in and that you meet the minimum requirements for, and you find advisors who you think you have a good fit with, it might be a good idea to contact that person in advance of your application. Sometimes their research focus changes and their website isn't current, or sometimes they cannot accept a student due to funding limitations at their own university. You don't want to waste your time and your money applying to get in somewhere with a person who isn't going to be able to accept anyone. So, start early, find programs and advisors you match with, contact that person, and then if everything seems like a good fit, make sure your personal statement is tailored to that person you're applying to work under, with a clear focus on what exactly you want to do and why you're the person they need working with them. Show them in the personal statement that you've done your research, you know what they do, and you know that what you want to do is a perfect match for their lab. This process is like a job application. There'll be a lot of applicants who meet the minimum requirements. It's your job to show them how you are clearly the best person for the positions they have available. Graduate student life is stressful, there's no doubt about that. Students are typically taking classes of their own in which there's typically a lot more reading and preparation needed compared to an undergraduate class, and a lot of courses are discussion-based. You'll also probably have some kind of assistantship, be it a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, in which you work in exchange for a stipend. As a TA, you might be teaching lab or discussion sections of a class or grading papers. With a research assistantship, you may be working on a particular project of your advisor's, doing data analysis for someone else, or doing other general research activities that are not your own projects. Sometimes students are working about 20 hours a week in these assistantship positions. These are important because it provides you money to live on. Research involvement and productivity is what most graduate advisors are most concerned with. Your research work may involve working with your advisor studies, working on your own thesis and/or dissertations, working on other manuscripts to get published, or traveling to conferences to attend and present your labs and your own work. There's usually a long to-do list as a graduate student that never seems to end. It's important to have a close support system that includes other students who understand your time commitments, and to make time for yourself each week for your own personal well-being. Here are a few resources that may help if you have questions. The first page is the UWM PhD program's homepage, and the second is the link for the Health Psychology Division of APA, which includes resources for students interested in health psychology.